If you have played Xenoblade Chronicles 2 before, you know the gacha mechanic of pulling for blades can be an RNG grindfest. We have all heard tales of endless attempts to pull for Cosmos, and just like the evil door I covered in my last video, blade pulls can ruin just as many Xenoblade Chronicle 2 speedrun attempts. In a speedrun, there's no time to endlessly pull blades, and there's only one optimal section to do this. You might know all the blades in the game, but what blades do we need for an optimal speedrun, and what role do they play in the run? Luckily, I'm here to go through this today in the video. We gain access to the Blade Bond menu, which runners refer to as blade pulls in chapter 2, but pulling blades here halts the story progression and wastes time, which a runner wants to avoid. The only time pulling is strategically viable is during the chapter 4 Merc mission tutorial, which we are forced to send a blade on a 1-minute mission and we must wait for this to play out so we can proceed with the story. This brief downtime is the perfect window to write in blade pulls, though it does still take longer than a minute. With DLC items, runners start with 20 rare and 25 legendary cores. However, we still sell 5 legendary cores for additional money earlier in the run, leaving us with a total of 20 legendary cores. There are also around 13 to 15 common cores in our inventory at this time too. For a run to continue, these are the bare minimum blades that are required. First off, we need 2 fire mastery blades, preferably non-healers to avoid the equipped character of the blade stealing pots from Nia in future fights. It's worth noting, Newton daggers also do not count here due to not having fire mastery, but they can be used instead for combat purposes. We also need 1 water mastery blade, preferably again a non-healer, a wind mastery blade, but Finch does not count to this due to no mastery, and finally 3 earth mastery blades. And unfortunately again, agate does not count to this due to not having earth mastery. So what are these bare minimum blades used for? Well, the fire and wind blades are used on the web in the Spirit Crucible Alpis in chapter 6. You are guaranteed 1 wind blade in chapter 2, so pulling another one is enough for what we need. The water blade is essentially used for steam explosion combos, particularly during the chapter 6 trio fight against Akos, Petroka and Mikhail. The AoE damage can devastate all 3 in one hit. It can also be used for battles you normally use a fire blade for, but you have only managed to pull healing fire blades. And finally, the earth blades are needed to unlock the chest containing 3 shining star chips in Temperantia, which we can get to early using a glitch, allowing us to obtain these before the power lines fight in chapter 5. While these blades are enough to progress and complete a speedrun of the game, additional pulls for certain field skill blades can save a huge amount of time, making the run smoother and faster. These blades and what they bring to the table are as follows. First up is the Keen Eye field skill, which we can obtain from the blades Adenine, Agate or Gorg. The ideal of the 3 would be to pull Adenine, as this also counts towards our wind mastery we need as I mentioned above, but Gorg is also just as good as it fills the non-healer water blade requirement too, but you do need to check Gorg's affinity chart to gain Keen Eye, making it slightly less optimal than Adenine. So if we do not pull one of the Keen Eye blades, the backup is to unlock Bridget's Keen Eye at level 2, but this does lose runners around 25 seconds as it requires buying desserts on the initial trip to Mor Ardain, and then in chapter 5 menu giving Morag 1 love sauce and 3 additional dessert pouch items, and loading multiple pouch items in one menu is quite slow due to the delay of consuming each one. If one of the Keen Eye blades are pulled, then you only need to give Morag the required Nasa pear jelly and the Bridget affinity chart check can be skipped. The next field skill advantage we need to get from blade pulls actually comes in a duo set and is one that you actually see the least often in the run, and these are Ancient Wisdom, which can be gained from the blade Perun, and also the Leaping field skill, which is gained from either Finch, Percival, Zenobia or Telos, which is available to pull if you are playing on a profile that has already completed the game. To clear up any confusion, this does not mean that we are running on New Game Plus. We still play on a fresh file with nothing carried over. As you can see, Perun is the only blade that will offer us Ancient Wisdom, but Leaping can be gained from 4 blades. The best blade to pull Leaping from is actually Zenobia, as it also counts towards the 1 wind mastery that we also need, unlike our pull Finch. Percival loses about 10 seconds to the others, as you need to give him 2 Generesi Ts to unlock Leaping. The reason we want to gain Perun and a Leaping blade is to avoid pulling Aegeon in chapter 7. Even though he comes with both Leaping and Ancient Wisdom, to actually pull Aegeon's core, you need to initiate in multiple battles beforehand, which means runners need to throw rocks at enemies as progressing through chapter 6 and partially through Spirit Crucible Alpis. Throwing the rocks take up time, but to also unlock Aegeon's Ancient Wisdom, you need to collect 5 insects and check his affinity chart, adding on even more time. If the player pulls Perun and a Leaping Blade, all they have to do is equip them both in the Spirit Crucible Alpis, so that Ancient Wisdom can be used on the Stone Tablet, and Leaping is ready for the adventure through the Cliffs of Moritha. This skips throwing multiple rocks, pulling for the Aegeon Core, checking 2 resource spots for 5 insects, and then checking Aegeon's affinity chart. This time save amounts around a total of 1 minute, which is a lot of time throughout the run. And lastly, the best blade to pull in the entire run is the adorable Boreas, saving a whopping 1 minute and 30 seconds and some sanity for the tedious backup you would have to do. Boreas comes with one of the worst skills in the game, known as Knock-on Wisdom. You remember it, the green barrels in chapter 4 requiring level 3 Knock-on Wisdom. Well, that is exactly the hurdle we are trying to overcome. Without Boreas, the next quickest way to get this level 3 Knock-on Wisdom is for Poppy, which requires talking to 60 Knock-on in total. Just before going to Morardain, runners have spoken to 26 Knock-on from story conversations, and 17 rated in by the end of chapter 2 for Knock-on Wisdom level 2, which we already need due to the speedrun rate. This leaves runners having to talk to a further 34 Knock-on if they do not pull Boreas. This is a huge time loss, and this is why Boreas is the most sought after optional blade pull in the game. As a side note, there is a known time save of around 10 seconds each for the first Lila fight, second Zeke fight, second Jin fight, and the Asthma Core by players using the Flame Bolt Blade combo. If they pull an electric blade with a lance or a katana, it will allow these fights to be faster as it requires 1 less blade special per fight. As an overall time save of an additional 40 seconds over the entire run, this heavily relies on break RNG per fight and rarely ever ends up working in the runner's favour, so no runners actually run with this right currently, and those who did try it tend to switch back to the normal writing of using a fire and then a water blade for more consistency. So as you can see, blades make a real big difference on a speedrun of this game, saving around 3 minutes optimally and an additional 40 seconds or so with the Flame Bolt strats, which is just a pipe dream at the moment. Obtaining all the blades minus the electric blade is a reality though, which is blessed down to runners on the odd occasion, but just because you get all the optimal blades, it does not mean that you are guaranteed to pull everything you need in a decent amount of time. Most of the time, runs are killed by not getting the third earth blade, as they are not as common as the fire, wind and water blades needed to carry on a bare minimum run. I have had multiple occasions where I have used up all my cores without 3 earth blades and unable to continue at all, even when obtaining all the other optional blades. As of writing this, my last 4 attempts to make it to blade pulls died to not having enough earth blades, and this segment is 1 hour and 15 minutes into an attempt, and this is why Gacha Gaming kills Xenoblade Chronicles 2 speedruns. Well, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I also stream Xenoblade speedruns and other speedruns of games on Twitch at twitch.tv/Mythragon, about 3 to 4 days a week. Feel free to follow and join in the fun. Take care, and I will see you next time.